Hello, everybody. Charles Cannon, Certified Financial Planner for the Lifetime Income for You channel. Today, we're talking about the government and you. Consider the government from the point of view of they are your future spouse. And let's think about some of the habits that the government has, and would you allow that in your household? Number one, the government constantly overdraws their bank account, don't they? Would you allow your spouse to constantly, time and time again, write checks that you can't cash? Of course not. Well, the government is constantly doing this. Next, imagine your future spouse as someone who constantly agrees to rules of spending with you and then disregards them or changes them. This is exactly what the government did with the rules regarding your qualified plans. We used to have a rule called a stretch IRA. It was our number one planning tool for leaving money to the next generation because we could leave those IRAs to your next generation and they could stretch the taxes over their own lifetime, decades and decades and decades. Well, guess what? In 2016, the government changed that rule without any notice. And now, when you leave money to your next generation, they are going to get taxed, and they are going to get taxed heavily, folks. Finally, we have to take a look at our national deficit. It is at 34 billion and growing every day. In fact, every day you wake up, our national deficit has grown by $5 billion. Debt service is the number one line item on our national budget now. In fact, it's more than defense. We spent about 800 billion on defense last year. We're going to be over $1 trillion in debt service this year. Folks, that is absolutely positively unsustainable. And at some point, the markets are going to feel it. The markets really ran up well in December. Early January has been very choppy. And we've got this balance of what's going on with interest rates, but the market is going up regardless. But at some point, folks, the markets will have a crash and burn moment. I don't know if it's 2024 or 2025 or 2036. I mean, when does it happen? I don't know. But we've got to deal with our $34 trillion of deficit at some point, folks. And it's absolutely positively unsustainable right now. The first spot where we're going to feel it is when our current tax bracket sunset in 2026. Because, I mean, let's face it, the government has to do one of two things. They've got to cut spending, which I think we can agree, and I don't care which political party you're from, I think you can agree neither side is good at cutting spending. Or they've got to raise revenue. So how can they raise revenue? They got to raise our tax brackets, right? Because of inflation, the current tax brackets have grown in each particular bracket, but they're going to raise the percentage of tax that you pay in each of those brackets. I guarantee you. President Biden says that you won't be affected unless you are over 300,000 of income. But you know the give and take. They're going to have to, at some point, give and take. And I don't care who the president is or who's in Congress at the point that we get to the sunsetting, but they're going to have to give and take. And that means a dramatic raise in some of those tax brackets, folks. So what I propose is that you consider divorcing yourself from the IRS when it comes to your retirement plans. Below, I've got the Ed Slott test. And if you haven't heard of Ed Slott, he's on PBS. He's one of America's best known taxation experts. And he's somebody that here at Cannon Financial Group, my team and I are proud to call one of our main mentors. We have access to Ed and his team to talk about taxation issues. And it's something that we do kind of behind the curtain, and then we bring you those solutions. The other thing that's going to happen in taxes, and it's going to happen even a year earlier in 2025, is the sunsetting of the estate tax rule. Estate taxes by President Bush. Right now, you can set aside almost $13 million per person, $26 million for a married couple. That is going to sunset after 2025, back to $5 million per person, $10 million total. Now, if you're under $10 million, with some good legal advice, you can set up an A/B trust and not pay any estate tax, but your qualified money will still get taxed at the highest rates for your heirs. And if you are over 10 million and it's because you have a large IRA, guess what? That money gets double taxed, folks. Gross. It's just gross. I don't have another word for it. Now, in addition to financial constraints, we've got a lot of political tensions. I mean, I don't care which party you're from, you agree with probably, about a third of what goes on in Washington. Our tensions and our rhetoric have never been higher than they are now. And that doesn't even take into account what's happened internationally in Israel, in Ukraine. And the one we've all got to take a look at is China and Taiwan. China, time and time again, has said they want to take Taiwan back over. In fact, I read an article that said in China, you're not even supposed to say the word Taiwan anymore. You should just be thinking of it as part of China. When they do that, we are going to be fighting a war on three fronts, folks, because as much as we consider ourselves just advisors in Ukraine and Israel, don't fool yourself. We are in it up to our hips. And if China takes advantage of our political unrest and being in two other wars already, I mean, to me, strategically, that's the time that they might want to try and take over Taiwan. And we have in the past said that we will get involved in that and defend Taiwan full on. If that happens, it's like World War III, folks. We're fighting a war on three fronts. We're running out of money. We're adding debt left and right. What happens to your savings when something like that happens? So again, we don't know if it's 2024, 2025, or way out in the future, but you've got to protect yourself. So clean up your financial game, because the IRS and political pressures and world economics and wars may come calling for everything you've worked 30, 35, 40 years to save. And only you can protect yourself. This is Charles Cannon, Certified Financial Planner for the Lifetime Income for You channel. Take heed with everything we've said. Everything we've said over the last year has come to fruition, and it's time to protect yourself. Bye now.